Because again, I'm going to keep saying this until it sinks in. I know a lot of you are already understanding it, but for those who aren't, you cannot go into the book of Revelation and expect to have any understanding of what Revelation is talking about. As Revelation clearly states, the spirit of prophecy is Yeshua, the Messiah, your high priest and mediator. He is the only way to the Father. So in order to understand anything that's written in Revelation, you have to understand the prophets. So it's going to expound on Revelation 6. It's even going to speak about Iddo the prophet. Remember Iddo the seer? Same person. When it talks about, is it not written in the books of the genealogies written by Iddo the seer? And it talks about how there were wars between Rehoboam and Jeroboam in those years, proving once again that there was a book of genealogies, which was burned down with the temple. But we're going to start in Zechariah chapter 1. And I'm going to bounce around a little bit just to kind of show. I'm not going to go into a super deep teaching on it because I want people to study it out, but I'm going to try to point out some of the key points like we were doing in the last two books, which were very short. This one is much longer. All right, Zechariah chapter 1, and it says, "In the 8th month, in the 2nd year of Darius, came the word of Yahweh unto Zechariah, the son of Berechiah, the son of Iddo the prophet, saying, Yahweh hath been sore displeased with your fathers. Therefore say unto them, Thus saith Yahweh of hosts, Turn ye unto me, saith Yahweh of hosts, and I will turn unto you, saith Yahweh of hosts. Be ye not as your fathers, unto whom the former prophets have cried, saying, Thus saith Yahweh of hosts." So he's saying, don't do what your forefathers did when I sent the prophets, and they did what? They unalived them, right? He's warning us right here. Don't be as your fathers, doing the same thing, making the same mistake. He says, turn to me, and I will turn to you. Turn ye now from your evil ways and your evil doings. But they did not hear, nor hearken unto me, saith Yahweh. Your fathers, where are they? And the prophets, do they live forever? But my words and my statutes, which I commanded my servants the prophets, did they not take hold of your fathers? And they returned and said, Like as Yahweh of hosts thought to do unto us, according to our ways and according to our doings, so hath he dealt with us. So when the Father's asking, your fathers, where are they? And the prophets, do they live forever? But my words, the Torah, my statutes, which I commanded my servants the prophets, did they not take hold of your fathers? I give you this day. You can choose good or evil, life and death, blessings or cursings. Therefore, choose life that you may live. The Father does not change. His laws have not changed. The punishments of not obeying the law has been changed because of the Messiah, the sacrificial law. It's been removed. So let's see, verse 7. Upon the 24th day of the 11th month, which is the month of Sabbat, in the year of Darius, came the word of Yahweh unto Zechariah, the son of Berechiah, the son of Iddo the prophet, saying, I saw by night, and behold, a man riding upon a red horse, and he stood among the myrtle trees that were in the bottom. Now remember, trees are important here. And behind him were red horses, and speckled, and white. This is Revelation chapter 6. Then said I, O my master, what are these? And the angel that talked with me said unto me, I will show thee what these be. And the man that stood by the myrtle trees answered and said, These are they whom Yahweh hath sent to walk to and fro through the earth. Let's stop right here. Who else was walking to and fro in the earth? Let's go to Job chapter 1, verse 6. It says, Now There was a day when the sons of Yahweh came to present themselves before Yahweh. Question, where does Yahweh dwell? In the highest heaven, right? And Satan came also among them. And Yahweh said unto Satan, Whence comest thou? Then Satan answered Yahweh and said, From going to and fro in the earth and from walking up and down it. Okay, so there's your first clue. So when he's asking, who are these that are riding upon the horses? He says, I will show thee. The angel, the man that's standing there, the angel says, These are they whom Yahweh hath sent to walk to and fro through the earth. And they answered the angel of Yahweh that stood among the myrtle trees and said, We have gone to and fro in the earth, and behold, all the earth is still and is at rest. Then the angel of Yahweh answered and said, O Yahweh of hosts. Now, who do you think this angel is? Who do you think this angel that's interceding for us is? Think about this for a minute. This is the Messiah. Then the angel of Yahweh answered and said to me, O Yahweh of hosts, how long wilt thou not have mercy on Jerusalem and the cities of Judah, against which thou hast indignation these 310 years, 310 years? And Yahweh answered the angel that talked with me with good words and comfortable words. So Yahweh is now answering the angel, and the angel is going to tell Zechariah to prophesy. Okay, agency. So the angel that communed with me said unto me, Cry thou. He's telling this to Zechariah to cry, saying, Thus saith Yahweh of hosts, I am jealous for Jerusalem and Zion with great jealousy. I am very sore displeased with the heathen that are at rest. For I was a little displeased, and they helped to forward the affliction, to make it worse. Therefore, thus saith Yahweh, I am returned to Jerusalem with mercies. My house shall be built in it, saith Yahweh of hosts, and a line shall be stretched upon Jerusalem. Cry yet, saying, Thus saith Yahweh of hosts, my cities through prosperity shall yet be spared or spread abroad, and Yahweh shall yet comfort Zion, and shall choose Jerusalem. This isn't talking about Jerusalem over there. This is talking about the people. Verse 18, Then I lifted up my eyes, and I saw, and behold, 4 horns. 4 horses, remember the 4 horsemen? 4 horns. And I said to the angel that talked with me, What be these? And he answered me, These are the horns which have scattered Judah, Israel, and Jerusalem. So how was everyone scattered? How did the Father scatter them? By these 4 horns. And Yahweh showed me 4 carpenters. Now, the word that's being used for carpenter here is skillful warriors. Skillful warriors, okay? Or skillful destroyer, or an artisan, or a craftsman. These are men that are skilled in war. Okay? Then said I, What come these to do? And he spake, saying, These are the horns which have scattered Judah. So out of these horses that we just were reading about in verse 7, I saw by night, behold, a man riding upon a red horse, and stood among the myrtle trees, which were at the bottom of and behind him. And there were red horses, and speckled and white. Let's go to Revelation chapter 6. Verse 2. And I saw, and behold, a white horse, and he that sat on him had a bow, and a crown was given to him, and he went forth conquering and to conquer. Verse 4. And there went out another horse that was red, and power was given to him that sat thereon to take peace from the earth, and that they should unalive one another. And there was given to him a great sword, confusion. Let's see. And I looked. Wait, did I skip over one? Yeah, I did. Sorry. So we have a white, a red. What did I do? Yeah, white is the first one, verse 2. Red is the second horse that goes out. And then we see when the second horse goes out, a black horse goes out, which is famine, pestilence. And then the last horse that goes out in verse 8 is a pale horse. And the name that sat on him is Death, and hell followed him. And power was given over to him to a fourth part of the earth, to unalive with the sword and with hunger and with death and with the beasts of the earth. Okay? So, this is what's being explained in Zechariah. It's going to go into the two prophets and everything. All right, so let me reread this. He's saying these are the horns, or the skillful warriors, that have scattered Judah, Israel, and Jerusalem. Then said I, what come these to do? And he spake, saying, these are the horns which have scattered Judah, so that no man did lift up his head. But these are come to fray them, and to cast out the horns of the Gentiles, which lifted up their horn over the land of Judah, to scatter it. So we have the Gentiles, which are not grafted in, or they're not part of the covenant, which lifted up their horn to scatter Judah. Okay? Chapter 2. I lifted up my eyes again, and I looked, and behold, a man with a measuring line in his hand. Okay, so this is Revelation chapter 11. There's much more to it than that. Then said I, whither goest thou? And he said, to measure Jerusalem, to see what is the breadth thereof, and what is the length thereof. And behold, the angel that talked with me went forth, and another angel went out to meet him, and said unto him, run, and speak to this young man, saying, Jerusalem shall be inhabited as towns without walls, for the multitude of the men and the cattle therein. Why is Jerusalem going to be without walls? Because we didn't listen. For I saith, Yahweh will be unto her for a wall of fire round about, and will be the glory in the midst of her. When does the Father become a fire round about? After all of these things take place. Verse 6, ho, ho, come forth. Again, this word that's being ho, ho can be alas or woe. Woe, alas, come forth. And flee from the land of the north. What comes out of the north? The locust army. Guys, you have to remember, all of this is explained in Enoch. I mean, you can read about it in the 66-book canon and make perfect sense of it. But the book of Enoch expounds on this so much, it's impossible to deny. Alas, alas, come forth and flee from the land of the north, saith Yahweh. For I have spread you abroad as the four winds of the heaven, saith Yahweh. Deliver thyself, O Zion, that dwellest with the daughter of Babylon. Where are we? In Babylon. For thus saith Yahweh of hosts, after the glory hath sent me unto the nations which spoiled you. Which, this word spoil doesn't mean like you're giving them gifts. It means to plunder. For that, where is it? For he that toucheth you toucheth the apple of his eye. For behold, I will shake my hand upon them, the Messiah, the right hand, and they shall be a spoil to their servants, and they shall know that Yahweh of hosts hath sent me. Who's speaking here? The angel. When he's being sent, the whole earth is going to know that Yahweh has sent him, Yeshua, Revelation 19. Sing and rejoice, O daughter of Zion, for lo, I come, and I will dwell in the midst of thee, saith Yahweh, and many nations shall be joined to Yahweh in that day, and shall be my people, and I will dwell in the midst of thee, and thou shalt know that I am Yahweh, thou shalt know that Yahweh of hosts hath sent me unto you. Messiah is speaking here. And Yahweh shall inherit Judah as his portion in the Holy Land, and shall choose Jerusalem again. Be silent, O all flesh, before Yahweh, for he is raised up out of his holy habitation. Now, I don't want you to forget this. Chapter 2, verse 1 says, he lifted up his eyes, and behold, a man with a measuring line in his hand. And then he asked the angel, where is this man going? And he says, to measure Jerusalem, to see what is the breadth thereof and the length thereof. Okay? Do not forget that, because we're going on to chapter 3, sorry. And this is going to become important after we're done reading this part. Actually, this chapter and the next chapter. I'm going to be jumping around a little bit. All right, now, remember in Haggai, we read about Zerubbabel, okay? Now, you're going to see the fulfillment of the prophecy of Yeshua in this chapter, chapter 3. And he showed me Joshua, the high priest, Yeshua. This is speaking about Yeshua, the high priest. And he showed me Yeshua, the high priest, standing before the angel of Yahweh, and Satan standing at his right hand to resist him. And Yahweh said unto Satan, Yahweh rebuke thee, O Satan. Even Yahweh hath chosen Jerusalem, rebuke thee. Is not this a brand plucked out of the fire? Now Yeshua was clothed with filthy garments, and stood before the angel. And he answered and spake unto those that stood before him, saying, Take away the filthy garments from him. From who? Yeshua. What are the filthy garments? The false accusations of Satan. Oh, he's picking grain on the Sabbath day, and he's doing this and he's doing that. Constantly trying to accuse the Messiah. Not to mention, the Messiah came sin for us. Now, this angel on Yahweh's behalf is saying, remove the filthy garments from Joshua. Okay? Behold, I have caused thine iniquity to pass from thee, and I will clothe thee with a change of raiment, righteousness. And I said, let them set a fair mitre. This word mitre means a turban or a headdress. Levitical garments, the priestly garments. Set a fair mitre upon his head. So they set a fair mitre upon his head and clothed him with garments. And the angel of Yahweh stood by, and the angel of Yahweh protested unto Joshua, saying, Thus saith Yahweh of hosts, if thou wilt walk in my ways, and if thou wilt keep my charge, then you shall also judge my house, and shall also keep my courts, and I will give thee places to walk amongst these that stand by. Hear now, O Yeshua, Joshua, the high priest, thou and thy fellows, Hebrews chapter 1, he was anointed with the oil of gladness above his fellows, that sit before thee, they are men wondered at. For behold, I will bring forth my servant, the branch, the Messiah. For behold, the stone that I have laid before Yeshua, upon one stone shall be 7 eyes. Behold, I will engrave the engraving thereof, saith Yahweh of hosts, and I will remove the iniquity of that land in one day. In that day, saith Yahweh of hosts, shall you call every man and his neighbor under the vine and under the fig tree. What's happening here? The gathering, the new earth. Now, this stone, remember the stone with the 7 eyes that was laid before Joshua in the book of Joshua? Remember the Messiah comes out of the midst of the throne. He has 7 eyes and 7 horns. The 7 churches, the 7 angels. Wait till we get to the next chapter, chapter 4. We're going to it right now. Chapter 4. Do not forget about the man with the measuring line, and do not forget what we just read in Zechariah chapter 3. Okay, because we're going to Zechariah chapter 4. And the angel that talked with me came again and walked with me, as a man that is wakened out of sleep, and said unto me, What seest thou? And I said and looked, and behold, a candlestick. What did we read in Zephaniah? Yahweh said, I will search thee out with a candle. Watch what this candlestick is. And behold, a candlestick all of gold, and a bowl upon the top of it. And and 7 lamps thereon, and 7 pipes, and 7 lamps which are upon the top thereof. So he's seeing a candlestick in the middle with a bowl on top of it that has oil, the Torah. Then he's seeing 7 other sticks that are next to it. 8 angels total. Okay? So I answered and spake with the angel and talked with me. What are these, my master? Then the angel that talked with me said unto me, Knowest not what these be? And I said, No, my master. Then he answered and spake to me, saying, This is the word of Yahweh unto Zerubbabel, saying, Not by might, nor by power, but by my spirit, saith Yahweh of hosts. Who art thou, O great mountain? Satan. Listen very closely. Who art thou, O great mountain, before Zerubbabel? You shall become a plain, flat. All those cedars that were plucked up in 2nd Baruch. Remember? The Messiah, the vine, comes with the fountains, and the waters are stirred up, and all of the cedars are uprooted except for one, Satan. Now we know this is not talking about Zerubbabel, right? Listen very closely. Thou shalt become a plain, and he, the Messiah, shall bring forth a headstone thereof. What's a headstone? Death. With shoutings, crying, Grace, grace unto it. Moreover, the word of Yahweh came unto me, saying, The hands of Zerubbabel have laid the foundation of this house. His hands shall also finish it. And thou shalt know that Yahweh of hosts hath sent me unto you. Who hath despised the day of small things? For they shall rejoice when they shall see the plummet. This word plummet means a stone. A stone. When they shall see the stone in the hand of Zerubbabel with those 7 eyes. Who are the 7 eyes? The 7 archangels in Revelation chapter 1. This is the fulfillment of how the Messiah becomes the leader over them. And Hebrews chapter 1 confirms it. All the angels of Yahweh shall worship him. Yeshua, the first brought forth son. They are the 7 eyes of Yahweh which run to and fro through the whole earth. So Yahweh has angels that go to and fro throughout the entire earth, and that includes Satan. Satan's the only one that can go before the throne and make accusations against us, right? But that's going to come to an end very soon here when the war takes place with Michael and Michael's angels and Satan and Satan's angels. It's very simple. Revelation 12. Now listen closely. Then answered I and said unto him, Who are these 2 olive trees upon the right side of the candlestick, and upon the left side thereof? And I answered again and said unto him, What be these 2 olive branches, which through the 2 golden pipes empty the golden oil out of themselves? What are the 2 prophets going to come back and do? And he answered and said to me, Knowest not what these be? And I said, No, my master. Then he said unto me, These are the 2 anointed ones that stand by the master, Lord, L-O-R-D, lowercase, the master of the whole earth, Elijah and Enoch, the 2 witnesses that stand by Yeshua of the whole earth. Why? Because he's been made and given all power and authority until after the 1,000-year reign, when he then gives all of that power and authority back to the Father. 1 Corinthians 15, 23 through 27. It's very, very clear. Now, let's go to Revelation 11 and just reread what we just read. Revelation 11, starting in verse 1. And there was given to me a reed like unto a rod, and the angel stood, saying, Rise, and measure the temple of Yahweh, and the altar, and them that worship therein. So what was that angel going out to do? The messenger? He was going out to measure Jerusalem, the height thereof, and the width thereof. Revelation 21. Is that speaking of a physical building? Yes. Is it also speaking of a physical people? Yes. We have to get through the new earth, people. The new earth is going to be the foundational principles of the 144,000 ruling and reigning with Yeshua the Messiah for 1,000 years, long before anybody sets eyes on the Father. Only those who make it through that 1,000-year millennial reign, Revelation 20, are going to see the Father returning as John sees him in Revelation 21. Verse 2, but the court which is within the temple leave out, and measure it not, for it is given unto the Gentiles. This is mentioned in Revelation chapter 22. Those that are left on the outside are liars, whoremongers, unalivers. Remember that part? That's what this is building on, okay? And the holy city shall they tread underfoot 42 months. And I will give power unto my 2 witnesses, and they shall prophesy 1,260 days, 3.5 years. So we know when tribulation begins, guess what? The 2 prophets have to make their appearance. Clothed in sackcloth, these are the 2 olive trees and the 2 candlesticks standing before the Elohim of the earth. Is that not what we just read in Zechariah 4? Verbatim? And if any man will hurt them, who? These 2 men that are going to be sent back, the only 2 men that did not taste death, Enoch and Elijah. Moses died, remember? Satan and Michael were contending over the bones of Moses. John, who wrote this book of Revelation, died. Just because it says in here that he must witness to nations that are to come, he's witnessing the same way every other prophet witnesses. We read this book and have understanding based upon what he wrote. There's only 2 men. Now listen, Abraham's bosom and paradise are not the same place. Paradise is described as one of the 7 firmaments, which Paul was taken up to the 3rd. Remember in the New Testament? When Paul has a thorn in his side and he's taken up to the 3rd firmament? You have Abraham's bosom. There's 4 chambers in the heart of the earth that hold or house these different spirits. They have to be separated. Paradise was created for Adam and Eve. It's going to be given back to us after the fact. But Enoch and Elijah are being preserved there. Every man has to die the death once. So listen very closely. And if any man will hurt them, fire proceedeth out of their mouth, and devour their enemies. And if any man will hurt them, he must in this manner be unalived. These have the power to shut heaven, that it rain not in those days of their prophecy, and have power over waters to turn them to blood. What are waters? People, nations. They're going to have the power to turn nations into blood, and to smite the earth with all plagues as often as they want. And they should, when they shall have finished their testimony, the beast that ascendeth out of the bottomless pit shall make war against them, and shall overcome them, and shall unalive them. So people say, well, everybody has to die the death once. Yes. When the 2 prophets come back, after they're done being preserved, they're going to come back for 3.5 years, prophesying and bringing complete decimation to the earth, sealing up the 144,000 and allowing the remnant a highway to escape back to the promised land to be hidden away. Even these 2 have to die. So either people want to hear what the prophets have to say, or you can keep rejecting it and try to read the book of Revelation and make sense of it with your own mind, in your own wicked heart. Or you can go by what the prophets were shown, and we can go back to those books and learn everything before we open our mouths about what we think Paul is saying, or what we think about the law being done away with, or think about being raptured out of here. No one's getting raptured out of here. The closest thing to a rapture is when the 144,000 at mid-tribulation, when these 2 witnesses die, are called up to the throne of the Most High. They return with the Messiah for a reason. Number 1, they're going to be wielding swords, and they're going to unalive all who remain. Number 2, they're going to be prophesying or teaching the remnant on the new earth for the 1,000 years. They are the new priests and kings of the new earth. Revelation 1 makes this very clear, yet the Christian church thinks this is talking about all of them. Let's read it. Revelation 1, verse 5. And from Yeshua Messiah, who is the faithful witness and the first begotten of the dead. This is why the Messiah says, I am the first and the last. And the prince of the kings of the earth, unto him that loved us and washed us from our sins with his own blood, and hath made us kings and priests unto Yahweh and his Father. To him be the glory and dominion forever and ever. We don't have to guess about this stuff. The same way the Levitical priests were bought free and went before their time, this is the same way the 144,000 are bought free and expire before their time. They are taken like that. The same way the remnant will be changed. Yes, every person that's part of the remnant that is left here is going to die. But your death is going to be so quick, it happens in the blinking of an eye. If you had any choice to leave this earth, would you rather suffer, or would you rather be changed from mortal to immortal in the blinking of an eye? Or I should say, you will get a regenerated body that will last one generation, according to the generation of Adam, which is 1,000 years. All right, back to Zechariah 4. So we see this prophecy. The hands of Zerubbabel have laid the foundation of this house. His hands shall also finish it. This is not talking about a temple made with hands, guys. We just read this in the very beginning of the book. They despised the first temple, and he said the second temple was going to be more glorious. Speaking about Revelation 21. And thou shalt know that Yahweh of hosts hath sent me unto you. For who has despised the day of small things? For they shall rejoice when they see the rock or the stone in the hand of Zerubbabel, Yeshua, the 7 angels in the hand of Yeshua. With those 7, they are the eyes of Yahweh which run to and fro in the whole earth. Now, let's go back to Revelation 1. This is clearly explained here as well. So John is seeing the Messiah being described, right? He turns to see the voice that is speaking with him, just like Moses at the burning bush. Moses heard a voice, which was the voice of an angel, but it was the words of Yahweh. It's called agency. When Moses turns to see the voice that is speaking with him, who does he see? An angel in a burning bush. Same thing happening with John, right? First he hears the Father saying, I am Alpha and Omega, the first and the last. What thou seest, write in a book, and send to the 7 churches which are in Asia. This is the 7 continents. And then he goes on and says, and I turned to see the voice that spake with me, and being turned, I saw 7 golden candlesticks. And in the midst of the 7 golden candlesticks, one like unto the Son of Man, clothed with a garment down to the foot, and the gird about the paps with the golden girdle. We just read this. His clothing was just replaced. He is now our high priest and mediator. His head and his hairs were white like wool, as white as snow. His eyes were a flame of fire, and his feet were like unto fine brass. When you look up this word fine brass, it means brilliant white, as if they burned in a furnace. And his voice was as the sound of many waters. And he had in his right hand 7 stars. Let's go back and read it again. The hands of Zerubbabel have laid the foundation of this house, and his hands shall also finish it. And you shall know that Yahweh of hosts has sent me unto you. Who hath despised the day of small things? For they shall rejoice when they see the stone in the hand of Zerubbabel, whose with those 7, they are the eyes of Yahweh which run to and fro in the whole earth. So who is the Messiah holding in his hand in Revelation chapter 1? These 7 mountains, right? They're called mountains. We can read that in Enoch. Remember in Enoch, that Enoch is taken to a place of the earth, and there's a mountain range burning day and night, the Messiah, and then behind it are 7 mountains with magnificent stones on them. The same way Satan was created. He had magnificent stones on him in the day that he was created. He was the covering cherub of the Garden of Eden. He walked up and down in the midst of the stones of fire until iniquity was found in him. And then he was hewn down, a tree hewn down. And all of Satan's offspring hewn down, as John the Baptist said. The axe is already laid at the root. He called them a brood of vipers. Verse 11. Actually, I think we read that. Okay, yeah, we read about the two prophets. So then he asked, who are these two olive trees that are standing on the right side and the left side? And he says, these are the two anointed ones that stand by the master of the whole earth. Who has all authority been given to according to what we just read about Zerubbabel? Yeshua. All right, chapter 5. Zechariah chapter 5. Now listen to this very closely. Then I turned and lifted up my eyes and looked, and behold, a flying roll, a scroll, a book. And he said, he said unto me, what seest thou? And I answered, I see a flying roll. The length thereof is 20 cubits. The breadth thereof is 10 cubits. Then he said unto me, this is the curse that goeth forth over the face of the whole earth. For every one that stealeth shall be cut off, as it is on this side according to it. And every one that sweareth shall be cut off, as it is on that side according to it. Writing on the front and the back. The same people that he's talking about in Revelation 22. Measure not the outer courts. This is who he's talking about right here. This flying scroll, the law. I will bring it forth, saith Yahweh of hosts, and it shall enter into the house of a thief, and into the house of him that sweareth falsely by my name, and shall remain in the midst of this house, and shall consume it with the timber thereof, and the stones thereof. And the angel that talked with me went forth and said unto me, lift up now thine eyes, and see what it is that goeth forth. And I said, what is it? And he said, this is an ephah. Okay? This is a way of measuring, or I don't know, I'm not going to look it up right now, but it's considered a dry measure. It's a different way of, this is an ephah that goeth forth. He said, moreover, this is the remembrance through all the earth. And behold, there was lifted up a talent of lead. And this is the woman that sitteth in the midst of the ephod. Listen about this woman, guys. And he said, this is wickedness. This is in the book of Revelation, right near what we were just reading. The great whore that sitteth upon many waters. The churches, come out of her, my people, lest you partake in her plagues. And he said, this is wickedness. And he cast it into the midst of the ephod. And he cast the weight of lead upon the mouth thereof. And I lifted up my eyes and looked, and behold, there came out two women. And the wind was under their wings, for they had wings like the wings of a stork. And they lifted up the ephod between the earth and heaven. Then said I to the angel that talked with me, whither do these bear the ephod? And he said unto me, to build it an house in the land of Shinar. And it shall be established and set there upon her own base. Question, what came out of the land of Shinar? Remember the Tower of Babel that was built there by Nimrod, the mighty hunter? Zechariah chapter 6. And I turned and lifted up my eyes and looked, and behold, there came forth chariots. Listen very closely. Out from between the two mountains. And the mountains were mountains of brass. And the first chariot was red horses. And the second chariot was black horses. And the third chariot was white horses. And in the fourth chariot, grizzled and bay horses, green. Then I answered and said unto the angel that talked with me, what are these, my master? And the angel answered me and said, these are the four spirits of the heavens, which go forth from standing before the master of the whole earth. The black horses, which are therein, go forth into the north country. Do we have to go back to Revelation 6? What does the black horse do? Let's read about the black horse. Where am I? Okay. So I'm going to reread these. First, let's read about the white horse. And I saw, and behold, a white horse, and him that sat on him had a bow, and a crown was given to him. And he went forth conquering and to conquer. This is to stir up trouble. And there went out another horse that was red, and power was given to him that sat thereon to take peace from the earth. So we have the conquering horse, the white one. The red horse is to take peace from the earth and to cause those who are on the earth to unalive one another. Then we see that this horse also, and when he had opened the third seal, I heard the third beast say, Come and see, and I beheld, and lo, a black horse. And he that sat on him had a pair of balances in his hand. And I heard a voice in the midst of the four beasts say, A measure of wheat for a denarius, and 3 measures of barley for a denarius, and see that you hurt not the oil or the wine. Oil and wine represent what? This is talking about 2 different things. You've got a spiritual meaning to this, and you've got our physical reality meaning. Oil and wine. Oil we can use for cooking. Wine we can drink. Prophetically speaking, oil in your lamp is what? The Torah. Wine is what? Doctrine. It can either be good doctrine or bad doctrine. So this is going to be talking about the causations of these spirits as they're manifested in the heavenly realm. They are going to manifest in our physical reality. And when they manifest in our physical reality, it brings consequences. Death, famines, earthquakes in diverse places. All of these things, right? Inflation. And I looked, and behold, a pale horse. And his name that sat on him was Death. And hell followed with him. And power was given unto them over a 4th part of the earth, to unalive with the sword, and with hunger, and with death, and with the beast of the earth. Do you notice how this 4th horse, all of the things that we just read are all combined? Just like when we were reading in 2nd Baruch, he said, these 12 things are going to happen during the time of tribulation. And then the 12th one, was all of the things mingled together. The people that are saying that these books aren't scripture have never studied these things. That I can assure you. All right, now let's start back over again. In the first chariot were red horses. What did the red horses do? In the second, black horses. What does the black horse do? In the third chariot, white horses. In the 4th chariot, grizzled and bay horses. Then I answered and said unto the angel that talked with me, What are these, my master? And the angel said to me, These are the 4 spirits of the heavens which go forth from standing before the master of all the earth. The black horses which are therein go forth into the north country. What did the black horse do? What was the last horse we read about? Had everything mingled together. Hell and death follows this one, right? It's going into the north country to stir up the northern army. The black horse are those that go therefore into the north country, and the white go after them. What does the white do? Going in to conquer. And them that are grizzled, the green horses, go forth towards the south country. What did the grizzled horses do? They caused a famine. And the bay went forth, and the bay went forth to and sought out they that might walk to and fro through the earth, and said, Get you hence, walk to and fro the earth. So they walked to and fro through the earth. Then cried he upon me, and spake unto me, saying, Behold, these that go towards the north have quieted my spirit in the north country. In the beginning of what we first started reading, the Father was very displeased at the prophets and all of these false people that are out here speaking stuff that they don't know about. So when these horses are sent forth, and they were sent forth, this isn't the first time they've gone forth. These are nations of people coming in to correct Israel. These are angels, that are going to stir up the people that are here on the earth. And again, we've spoken about the writings of Solomon. I've spoken to you guys before, and this is just my opinion. There's a lot you can learn about what Solomon wrote about stirring up demons and how the angels in heaven are over those demons that are here left on the earth. 1/10 part of them are still here walking the earth. Now, 70 generations after Noah, remember those angels that went into the daughters of men, they were bound for 70 generations. They are free. They're on the earth, which is why technology is increasing, why evil is increasing, and why we're closer and closer to the birth pains ending and tribulation beginning. Also, Revelation 6 is an exact comparison to Matthew chapter 24, verses 1 through 8. The Messiah was teaching about what these horses were going to do. We'll cover that in a minute. And the word of Yahweh came unto me, saying, take of them of the captivity of Heldiah and Tobijah and Jedediah, which are come from Babylon, and come thou the same day, and go into the house of Josiah, the son of Zephaniah. Take the silver and the gold, and make crowns, and set them upon the head of Joshua, the son of Josedek, the high priest. Now, what is he saying here? He's saying, take the silver and the gold and make crowns, not a crown, crowns, and set them upon the head of Yeshua, the son of Josedek, the high priest, and speak unto him, saying, thus speaketh Yahweh of hosts, saying, behold, the man whose name is the branch, he shall grow up out of his place, and he shall build the temple of Yahweh. Is this speaking of Zerubbabel? No. Who's the branch? Yeshua. Even he shall build the temple of Yahweh, and he shall bear the glory and sit and rule upon his throne. Question, did Zechariah do any of this, or was any of this prophesied of Zechariah? No. What about Joshua? In the book of Joshua, not talking about the Messiah, in the book of Joshua, is Joshua supposed to be seated upon a throne? No. So who is this speaking about, people? Yeshua. He shall be a high priest upon his throne, and the counsel of peace shall be between them both, and the crowns shall be to Helam and Tobijah, and to Jedediah, and Hen, the son of Zephaniah, for a memorial in the temple of Yahweh. And they that are afar off shall come and build in the temple of Yahweh, and you shall know that Yahweh of hosts hath sent me unto you. And it shall come to pass, if you will diligently obey the voice of Yahweh your Elohim. How do you obey the voice of Yahweh your Elohim? Listening to the words of the Messiah through the prophets. Luke, let me just remind everybody. I know most of you guys have heard this a million times over. Luke 24:44. This is not a suggestion. This is the words of your Messiah. Messiah speaking, and he said unto them, these are the words which I spake unto you while I was yet with you, that all things must be fulfilled, which are written in the law of Moses, and in the prophets, and in the Psalms concerning me. Who's the spirit of prophecy? Yeshua. What are all the books written about? Him. Then opened he, the Messiah, he opened his disciples their understanding, that they might understand the scriptures. How long did they walk with Yeshua? They were doing miracles by his power. They walked with him for 3 years. They watched him be crucified, resurrected, and then taken into the heavens. And then every one of them, with the exception of one, died a horrific death because they refused to stop teaching the word. So question, why is it that after he told them this, that then he opened their understanding that they might understand the scriptures? Don't think that you're just going to walk into these books and you're just, oh, I get it. No. Yahweh made it very clear that those that study must study to show themselves approved. Yahweh says in the book of Hosea, I fear my people will perish for a lack of knowledge. Why? Because we're not learning our lesson. Our forefathers went against the prophets the same way that the Christian church is doing to us today. We're teaching exactly what the prophets are saying, and we have the churches saying, no, we're saved by grace through faith alone. Your works are filthy rags, because they don't understand Paul. We're going to get raptured out of here because we've confessed the name of Zeus. Please explain to me how all the translations of the name of Joshua were properly translated in all of these books, but when it comes to the name of Yeshua, which literally means salvation in Hebrew, if you look up the word salvation in Hebrew, you will see what it means. Yeshua. How did they translate all of the names of Joshua, but when it came to our Messiah, they translated his name to Jesus? Ask anybody that speaks Spanish what Jesus means. Back to where we were. All right, we were in verse 12. And speak unto him, saying, Thus speaketh Yahweh of hosts, saying, Behold, the man whose name is the branch, he shall grow up out of his place, and shall build the temple of Yahweh. And even he shall build the temple of Yahweh, and he shall bear the glory, and shall sit and rule upon his throne, and shall be a priest unto his throne. And the counsel of peace shall be between both of them, him and the Father. And the crowns shall be a helm to Tobijah and to Jedediah, and to Hen, the son of Zephaniah, for a memorial of the temple of Yahweh. And they that are far off, that are scattered, shall come and build in the temple of Yahweh. Where is the temple of Yahweh now? Right here. What does it mean they're going to come and build? We're going to have to be one body, people. We have to be one mind, one body before the Messiah returns. And you shall know that I am Yahweh of hosts, and that he has sent me unto you. And it shall come to pass, if you will diligently obey the voice of Yahweh your Elohim. If we want this to come to pass, what do we have to do? Diligently obey the word of the Father, which does not change ever. Zechariah chapter 7. I'll go there in a minute. Zechariah 7. And it came to pass on the 4th year that King Darius, that the word of Yahweh came unto Zechariah in the 4th day of the 9th month, even in Chesleu, when they had sent unto the house of Yahweh Sherezer and Regem, Melech, and their men to pray before Yahweh, and speak unto the priests which were in the house of Yahweh of hosts, and to the prophets, saying, Should I weep in the 5th month, separating myself as I have done these so many years? Then came the word of Yahweh of hosts unto me, saying, Speak unto all the people of the land, and to the priests, saying, When you fasted and mourned in the 5th and 7th month, even those 70 years, did you at all fast unto me, or even unto me? And when you did eat, when you did drink, did you not eat for yourselves and drink for yourselves? Who is he talking to here? The priests, the teachers. He's saying that they're selfish, basically. He said, when you ate and you drank, and I was blessing you, did you not do all of these things when you fasted? Did you not do all these things for yourselves, not for me? Should you not hear the words which Yahweh hath cried by the former prophets? When Jerusalem was inhabited, and posterity, and the cities thereof found round about, when men inhabited the south of the plain. And the word of Yahweh came to Zechariah, saying, Thus speaketh Yahweh of hosts, saying, Execute true judgment, and show mercy and compassion, every man to his brother, and oppress not the widow, nor the fatherless, the stranger, nor the poor, and let none of you imagine evil against his brother in your heart. Now, I want to stop here. Oppress not the widow, or the fatherless, or the stranger, or the poor, and let none of you imagine evil against his brother in your heart. Is there a deeper meaning to this? When the Messiah is addressing the churches, understand the Father calls himself a widow, number one. Number two, if you are a widow, that means you're dead to the Father. If you're fatherless, you don't know the Father. Stranger, not part of Israel. The poor, remember the Messiah addressing the churches? When he said, I know your poverty, but thou art rich. They were poor. What were they rich in? The Spirit. And let none of you imagine evil against his brother in your heart. But they refused to hearken, and they pulled away the shoulder and stopped their ears, that they should not hear. Yea, they made their hearts as an adamant stone. Remember when Moses gave the law? The reason it was given on tablets of stone was because it represented the people's hearts. They were called stiff-necked and hard-hearted. When the Messiah came, it represented the heart circumcision. He came in the flesh, which was an example of the law being written on your heart after that stone has been chiseled away. Remember, Yahweh gave Moses the law. Moses gave the law to the people. Did they keep it? No. They died in the wilderness. Hebrews chapter 3. The gospel was preached to them as well as unto us. So what is the gospel? For all that say, oh, it's just the death, burial, and resurrection. I'm not making light of that, but that's not all of the gospel. The Messiah came preaching a gospel of a kingdom. Did he not? The victory over the first death and the promise of not partaking in the second death. All sin entered the world, not your body. So that original sin nonsense is a lie. All sin entered the world. Then it enters the land, causing the people to get kicked out of the land, which is why paradise was taken from us. It's why Adam and Eve had to leave. They couldn't be a corruption to the rest of the trees in the garden, which were angels. All right. Yea, they made their hearts as an adamant stone, lest they should hear the law. Same thing that's happening today. And the words which Yahweh of hosts has sent in his spirit by the former prophets. Amos 3:7. I can quote it, but I'm going to read it. Amos 3:7. Surely Yahweh will do nothing, but he revealeth his secrets unto his servants the prophets. So what is he saying here? He said, when you guys were eating and drinking and filling yourselves, what did you do? You didn't hear the words of Yahweh. When Yahweh hath cried by the former prophets, meaning the prophets were speaking his words. They were agents for the Father. When Jerusalem was inhabited in prosperity, and the cities thereof round about her, when men inhabited the south of the plain. Sorry, guys, my ear keeps popping. And the word of Yahweh came unto Zechariah, saying, Thus speaketh Yahweh of hosts, say, execute true judgment, and show mercy and compassion, every man to his brother, and oppress not the widow. Is a widow a person who has lost a husband? Yes. Nor the fatherless. Are there people that don't have a physical father on the earth? Yes. Or the stranger, those who are outside of Israel. Nor the poor, people that don't have money. And let none of you imagine evil against his brother in your heart. But they refused to hearken, to listen, and pulled away the shoulder, and stopped their ears that they should not hear. Yea, They made their hearts as an adamant stone, lest they should hear the law and the words which Yahweh of hosts hath sent in his spirit by the former prophets. Therefore came a great wrath from Yahweh of hosts. What do you think is going to happen if you keep rejecting the words of these prophets? If he sent wrath before, what do you think is going to bring the wrath again? Do you think Revelation is a new wrath? It's the same story over and over and over, and people are still going with these Baal priests in the church. Therefore it shall come to pass that as he cried, and they would not hear, so they cried, and I will not hear, saith Yahweh of hosts. But I scattered them with a whirlwind, Yeshua, amongst the nations whom they knew not. Thus the land was desolate after them, and no man passed through nor returned. They laid the pleasant land desolate. What did they do? They laid the pleasant land desolate. How? By sinning in the land. Very simple. There goes the original sin nonsense right out the door. My ear's driving me nuts. All right, Zechariah chapter 8. I pray this is making sense, guys. Again, the word of Yahweh of hosts came to me, saying, Thus saith Yahweh of hosts, I was jealous for Zion with a great jealousy. I was jealous for her with great fury. Thus saith Yahweh, I am returned unto Zion, and I will dwell in the midst of Jerusalem. And Jerusalem shall be called the city of truth, cities of peace. And every man with his staff in his hand for very age, the 1,000-year millennial reign. And the streets of the city shall be full of boys and girls playing in the streets thereof. Thus saith Yahweh of hosts, if it be marvelous in the eyes of the remnant of this people in these days, should it also be marvelous in my eyes, saith Yahweh of hosts? Thus saith Yahweh of hosts, behold, I will save my people from the east country. If only people would just listen. Where's the east country? Who are those that have been pushed down into the east? And from the west. He's going to gather his people from the west. And I will bring them, and they shall dwell in the midst of Jerusalem, cities of peace. And they shall be my people, and I will be their Elohim, in truth and in righteousness. This is Revelation 21. I will be their God, and they shall be my people. Thus, all of us becoming the sons of God, the same way the Messiah did. Thus saith Yahweh of hosts, let your hands be strong, that you hear in the days of these words by the mouth of the prophets, which were in the day that the foundation of the house of Yahweh of hosts was laid, and the temple might be built. For before these days there was no hire for man, nor hire for beasts. Neither was there any peace to him that went out and came because of the affliction. I set all men, every one against his neighbor. Confusion, a plummet. But I will not be unto the residue of this people, the remnant. As in the former days, saith Yahweh of hosts, for this seed shall be prosperous, the vine shall give her fruit, and the ground shall give her increase, and the heavens shall give their due. Wait a minute, let's stop right here. For the seed shall be prosperous, the vine shall give her fruit. Who's the vine? I am the vine, you are the branches. It's calling her her, just like it calls the Messiah wisdom a her in Proverbs 8. Prophetical speech. The vine shall give her fruit, and the ground shall give her increase, and the heavens shall give their due. Deuteronomy 32, the Torah. And I will cause the remnant of this people that possess all of these things. And it shall come to pass that as you were a curse among the heathen, O house of Judah, and O house of Israel, so will I save you, and you shall be for a blessing. Fear not, but your hands be strong, for thus saith Yahweh of hosts, as I thought to punish you when your fathers provoked me to wrath, saith Yahweh of hosts, I repented not. So again have I thought in these days to dwell amongst Jerusalem, and to the house of Judah, fear ye not. Who's he speaking to? The remnant, those who will be hidden away during the last 3.5 years of tribulation. If you don't like that, I'm sorry, but that's what the word says. Now, also, he was talking about those that were turned away. Remember, he said that he had thought to punish us, and that his wrath was not turned away from our fathers, right? This is the book of Hosea. Those that were called no longer the Father's people will be called his people. Those who take up the covenant, are washed by the blood of the Messiah, and have received the gift of the Spirit, and are able to discern the words of this book. These are the things that you shall do. Speak ye every man in truth to his neighbor. Oh, but don't mention who's going to be allowed into the kingdom and who's not. That's racist. Would I be a liar for your sake if I didn't tell you who these people are? Absolutely. That would be me holding back so I can fit in with the world. And what did the Messiah say? He doesn't do lukewarm. You're either hot or cold. Those are the only two he has to work with. If you're cold, you don't know anything. You have a chance. If you're hot, you're already in the kingdom. If you're lukewarm, he will violently vomit you out of his mouth. So what do you have to do? These are the things that you shall do. Speak ye every man the truth to his neighbor. Execute the judgment of truth and peace in your gates. You don't go to churches and scream at pastors and cuss them out and chase them down the street and start your little internet websites and talk filth out of your mouth when you're sending messages to people and all of this other nonsense. Those are not the fruits of the Spirit. Everybody should know how to test a false prophet. If you don't know how to test a false prophet, then you need to go back and study. If you have these groups trying to pull you in and they're telling you they have the key of David, that they're the 144,000, that's boasting. You better be very careful with people like that. People that are telling you that Sabbath is from sunup to sunup. After you give them 50 scriptures in the book, showing them hours and hours and hours of teaching, proving it, line upon line, precept upon precept, here a little, there a little. Friday, sundown, Saturday, sundown. If you're not keeping that, you are leading people astray. The Sabbath is an everlasting perpetual covenant, meaning it will never end. If you're keeping Sabbath from morning to morning, you're keeping it wrong, and you're leading the people astray. It's that simple. That's how we know your fruits. All of you that don't use the proper names, all of you that keep morning to morning Sabbath, are all the same people that are sending filthy messages with vulgar language, going into churches and rebuking people. That's not how the Messiah acted. If you're not acting out of love, you think anybody's going to listen to you if you're calling them stupid and dumb? Wake up, people. Don't get caught up by these groups. And I can tell you this, it's going to get a whole lot worse. This is just the beginning of the deception of Satan. Remember, Satan himself can transform himself into an angel of light, and so can his demons. So we're told to execute truth and judgment within our gates, and let none of you imagine evil in your hearts against his neighbor, and love no false oath. For all of these things I hate, saith Yahweh. And the word of Yahweh of hosts came to me, saying, Thus saith Yahweh of hosts, the fast of the 4th month, and the feast of the 5th, and the fast of the 7th, and the fast of the 10th, shall be to the house of Judah for joy and gladness, and cheerful feasts. Therefore love the truth and peace. Thus saith Yahweh of hosts, it shall yet come to pass, that there shall come people, and the inhabitants of many cities, and the inhabitants of one city shall go to another, saying, Let us go speedily to pray before Yahweh, and to seek Yahweh of hosts. And I will go also. Yea, many people and strong nations shall come to seek Yahweh of hosts in Jerusalem, and pray before Yahweh. Thus saith Yahweh, In those days it shall come to pass that 10 men shall take hold out of all the languages of the nations, even shall take hold of the skirt of him that is a Jew, not a false Jew, that is a Jew, saying, We will go with you, for we have heard that Yahweh is with you. Why will this happen? Because these men that are speaking, thinking that they're speaking truth, they aren't. When they realize the error of their way, they're going to go after those of us that are speaking truth, because they're going to know that the Father is with us, because we don't teach outside of what the prophets are teaching. We're not making up our own doctrines. All right, guys, we're in chapter 9. Give me a second. Chapter 9. We got 6 more chapters to go, so I'm going to take a break. I've got to try to clear my ear. My ears, like, every time I'm talking, it feels like I have to yell because my ears are like something's in them. I'm sure it's from my throat from this morning. But we've gone through so far. We've gone through Zephaniah, Haggai, and we're in the 9th chapter of Zechariah, and we will go through Malachi as well. I just need a couple minutes for my throat to relax. I'm going to use some spray, and I'm going to try to unclog my ear really quickly. Whatever's going on there is driving me crazy. It's like everything's echoing in my head. Please understand this. I don't come on here to condemn anyone. And there are people that are in here right now that know, that have disagreed with me in the past, that have now come to truth. These every single time people have come against me, some of them even said some pretty hateful stuff. When they come to me and they say they see the truth now, the only thing that I say to them is praise the Father, hallelujah. I don't hold that against them. I'm not on here preaching hate. I want people to wake up to the truth, and I want people to hear that when we read through the prophecies, we don't have to add to anything. All we have to do is read it with understanding. If you don't have the Spirit dwelling in you, you can't have understanding. You cannot do what we've been seeing some of these people doing. It's not that I don't love them. It's not that I don't care about them. But when they start acting irrational and calling out other people and calling them names, believe me, I'm going to be on your rear end for that. And I will cut you with this word. Because at the end of the day, there's only one truth. And although people are wielding swords, only one can win. The one who's standing in truth. I've said it for years. If you don't want problems, do not start problems with my brothers and my sisters. Because they might not be as well versed as I or others. Those of us that are, we're going to put an end to your nonsense. I keep receipts. I make sure that every single conversation that I've had with some of these men that are teaching the word, proclaiming to be something that they are not yet. If you don't get out of these groups and stop listening to people that do not preach directly from this book, they are going to lead you astray. Your trust should be in the Father, not me, not Michael, not Jason, not Emmanuel, none of these brothers on here. Your trust should not be in any man. I'm on here teaching to help wake people up. That's my main goal. If you don't like what I preach, go somewhere else. It's that simple. However, I'm going to continue to preach truth, regardless of how people feel about the serpent seed and everything else. You're about to find out about the serpent seed very soon. As a matter of fact, you can take this to the bank. When tribulation begins, all of you that have come against us for teaching the truth, as we just read, all of it, not the parts that we like, you're going to remember all of the times that we warned you, both privately and openly. We've been trying to warn you. The Father has always corrected Israel with other nations. And this time, when the bottomless pit opens, and those demons that have been trapped for almost 7,000 years are going to be let loose and go into those people. And they're going to persecute those of you that are still in the churches and those of you that are still eating up all the lies of these Baal priests. If you do not take correction from the people that Yahweh chose to speak through, you're not preaching the gospel. The gospel is this entire book. The gospel of a kingdom is about the death, burial, and resurrection, but it's also a promise of a kingdom of things to come. And the only way to enter into that kingdom is being obedient to the Father's voice, and then you can enter covenant. Those are for people that are willing to walk out the covenant of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob by doing what the Father commanded to all of Israel. If you're calling yourself a Gentile, then you don't know who you are. It's that simple. Once you realize who you are, you don't have to walk around calling yourself a Gentile. You're grafted back in. You become part of Israel again. That's all Gentile means. Those of Israel who have fallen away from Israel, the 12 tribes, the 12 children that came out of Jacob's loins, the 12 sons. That is Israel. And the other nations outside that choose to cleave to Israel will be on the new earth as well. But there are some ethnoses, if I can put it that way, that will not enter the congregation of Yahweh forever because they are children of Satan, direct descendants of the fallen. And when we say fallen, people believe Genesis chapter 6 that those angels went into the daughters of men, but they don't believe that Satan did it in Genesis chapter 3. Blows my mind. Their leader, they don't believe their leader was capable of deceiving Eve. They think that Yahweh is so angry because they ate off of a piece of fruit that they got kicked out of paradise. So the Father took paradise into the heavens away from us. And then he created those 4 chambers in the heart of the earth to separate all the spirits of the dead. And even in those chambers, there's still Adam and his blood crying out because the spirit lives in the blood, making suit against the seed of Cain and all of Cain's offspring until they're destroyed from the earth. And that final seed will be Satan because they're his children. So with that, I'll be back on shortly. Give me a little bit. I got to allow my ear to unclog. And I'm going to try to get these 2 posted while I'm waiting for my ear to unclog and before I come back on here. So I'm just going to leave this on Zechariah chapter 9, and we'll go through Zechariah all the way to Malachi. All the way through Malachi. And again, I'm trying to cover as many of these Old Testament prophecies as I can. I still have to go through the entire book of Exodus, Leviticus, Numbers, Deuteronomy. I don't remember if we covered Joshua. There's a lot of the bigger prophets that I need to cover. A lot of the smaller prophets I covered first to show people that the smaller the book, the smaller the prophet, you're getting a condensed amount of information in a few short chapters. Like, for instance, the book of Obadiah is about the destruction of the Edomites, right? Which goes hand in hand with Isaiah 63 and Revelation 19, stuff like that. But then you have other prophets that are specifically speaking about certain times, which are usually concerning the end, right? So you're getting different perspectives from different prophets. The larger prophets are giving you a much bigger story with a lot more prophetical language in it. And I'm trying to show you the simplicity in the smaller prophets so that as you guys start studying the larger prophets, you're going to understand what you're reading. When it's talking about the beast of the earth, when it's talking about mountains or seas or waters or lilies or grass, all of these things have prophetical meanings to them. Even animals, all the animals that are named off in Scripture represent nations of people, which requires studying and accepting books that people are rejecting. You can still go through the books and read them, the 66 book canon. You can still figure everything you need to figure out like that just in those books. Stick to those books until you're familiar with them. Then you can jump over to Enoch. Then your mind will be blown. Once you have a good understanding of the law and the prophets, your mind will be blown by how much truth is in these books. And on my YouTube page, you can go watch it. We've already broken down the first 64 chapters of Enoch, the Dead Sea Scroll version that was found with the 66, or the other books that were found that are part of the 66. we've broken that down, the first 64 chapters, comparing it line for line, verse for verse, with the 66 book canon. So again, please go study those things. Also, the second teaching on the locust army is up on my Patreon. For those of you that some have watched it, but some might not know that yet. If you haven't seen it, go watch it. That's the building foundation, the second part, and the third part, I'm going to do 4 parts. The third part is going to be going into the deep prophetical speech of everything that I've been covering. I'm trying to cover it on live, on TikTok, and I'm also covering it in Patreon for those that like the documentary format. So with that, I'll be back on a little bit later. I hope you guys have a blessed morning. I'll probably be back on within the next half hour, 45 minutes. And I'll see you guys then. Shalom.